Good morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning, our last Sunday morning of the year. And as befits the holidays, our plate is full this morning. But we begin with the latest on a developing story that has sadly become a familiar one in this decade soon to end. We have the very latest on the Christmas Day attack on Northwest Airlines Flight 253 from our CBS News correspondents around the world, starting with Jim Axelrod in Detroit. It's our custom at this time of year. This morning, we take time to look back and remember, to say hail and farewell. They were the voices of our times.
That's the way it is.
They charmed us, amused us, inspired us, enriched our lives. So before we say goodbye to the old year, we say goodbye to some old friends.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
It's a Sunday morning tradition. As each year draws to a close, we pause to offer a last goodbye to those who have left us in the past 12 months. Here then is our hail and farewell.
You knock me off of my feet now, baby.
He was, for a time, the brightest star in the galaxy. He was called the King of Pop, and no one could argue.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance. Surely they'll love you.
The child amazed us.
Please let me back in your heart. 'Cause this night.
And the young man thrilled us with his music and his moves. Later, he morphed into a tabloid sensation. The excess, the behavior, the charges of abuse. But when he was gone, we were reminded once again of how it began, with that extraordinary talent. Merce Cunningham. He advanced the art of modern dance by leaps and bounds. Arguably the greatest choreographer of his time, Merce Cunningham always lived in the future, it was said, and the rest of us followed him there. Thank you, Merce Cunningham, for leading the way. And thank you, Jean-Claude. You and your husband, Christo, were rap artists of a different sort. Your Central Park gates opened art to the public in a grand way.
The aim is only to create a work of art, and there is no why.
This is the first time I've ever let anyone photograph me actually working on something.
Andrew Wyeth. He was a private man, much loved by the public, if not always by the critics. He was perhaps America's best-known painter. Andrew Wyeth's world revolved around his homes in Maine and Pennsylvania. He painted his neighbors and nearby places and gave us a melancholy portrait of rural American life. Roy DiCarava started out to be a painter, but that was lonely work. He wanted to be with people, these people. His photographs are tender portraits of life in Harlem. It doesn't have to be pretty to be true, he once said, but if it's true, it's beautiful. Irving Penn's pictures were truly beautiful. He photographed the famous and the fashionable, and his work made it to magazine covers and museum walls. On how many walls did this poster hang? Farrah Fawcett went from sex symbol to serious actress. Her career and her courage to the end showed she was much more than just a pretty face. Jennifer Jones, what a beauty she was, and what a talented actress. She won the Oscar in 1943 for The Song of Bernadette.
There's one big difference between you and me, George.
Carl Malden didn't have leading man looks.
I do this job because I've been trained to do it. You do it because you love it.
He played ordinary fellows extraordinarily well for more than 60 years. Dom DeLuise. When he was on the screen, you just knew a good punchline was coming.
Not in the face! Thank you.
Patrick Swayze was as graceful as they come, even when he was dirty dancing. We said goodbye to him this year.
He will hold me fast.
The spotlight dimmed too soon on Natasha Richardson. She went into the family business and made a name for herself on stage and screen. On another note, their harmonies belied the discord of the times.
How many seas must
Folk singers Peter, Paul, and Mary were at the heart of the 60s protest movement, and Mary Travers was the heart of Peter, Paul, and Mary.
That music was right there at the right time with the right message, and we were in the thick of it.
and the first one now will later
Their music is still with us,
for the time they
but Mary Travers is gone now. Defense Secretary Robert McNamara. He was the architect of America's early involvement in Vietnam. McNamara's War, it was called, and he didn't mind. But years later, he said he was wrong, terribly wrong. William Safire wrote that critics of that war were nattering nabobs of negativism, or hysterical hypochondriacs of history. As a speechwriter, then as a columnist, William Safire had a way with words.
Teach your children well.
Senator Claiborne Pell helped tens of millions of students to get a college education. He gave us the Pell Grants.
And feed.
Generations of students learned about economics from Paul Samuelson. He wrote the book on it. Jack Kemp was an all-star on the football field. But it was in the political arena where he really excelled. As a champion of supply-side economics. Speaking of champions, Ingemar Johansson died this year. He was heavyweight boxing champion.
Jack Kramer, king of the pros and probably the world's greatest player.
Jack Kramer was about as important a tennis figure as there was. He was a champion player, a promoter, a labor leader, a broadcaster. Jack Kramer did it all. Andrea Lawrence did something we hadn't seen before. As a 19-year-old newlywed at the Winter Olympics in 1952, she won 2 gold medals in alpine skiing. No American had ever done that. No American has done it since. There are Olympics, and then there are the Special Olympics.
Good luck, athletes.
We can thank Eunice Kennedy Shriver for that. She started it in her own backyard, a camp for people with intellectual disabilities. It grew to include 3 million athletes from 150 countries. In a family dedicated to public service, Eunice Kennedy Shriver had the biggest heart of all. Her brother Ted said that. Yes, we said goodbye to Ted Kennedy this year. He emerged from the shadows of his siblings to become, in many ways, the most accomplished Kennedy of them all. A child of privilege who championed those in need.
The people at the top end up with a golden parachute, and these people end out on the street.
Despite immeasurable tragedy, some of it of his own making,
this morning I entered a plea of guilty to the charge.
He became one of the longest-serving and most influential senators in American history, the liberal lion and the keeper of the flame.
For all those whose cares have been our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
Corazon Aquino never dreamed of leading a revolution. But her people power movement overthrew strongman Ferdinand Marcos, restored democracy to the Philippines, and made this unassuming widow president. Ray Nance. He was the last of the Bedford Boys, 34 young men from a small town in the Blue Ridge foothills. They joined the National Guard together, and together they were among the first to land at Omaha Beach on D-Day. 22 never made it home to Bedford. No American town suffered more.
The story should be told, even though it's not easy to tell it. People should be told about such young men as those fine young men.
We tell Ray Vance's story today, and we say thank you. Many fine young men and women lost their lives fighting for their country this year. More than 450 Americans were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. These are the faces of just a few. From lives lost to lives saved, Norman Borlaug may have saved more lives than anyone who ever lived. Hundreds of millions of lives. He did that by teaching the world to feed itself with high-yielding wheat and rice. Dr. Borlaug was the father of what came to be known as the Green Revolution, and it earned him the Nobel Peace Prize.
We pray that she shall be healed.
Oral Roberts was the father of televangelists.
The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords!
The first of the Pentecostal preachers to turn first to radio and then to television to heal the faithful.
Give me your attention.
Millard Fuller believed that charity begins with homes. He founded Habitat for Humanity, which built hundreds of thousands of houses for poor people around the world. Albert Crew let us see the image of a single atom for the very first time. No small thing, what Albert Crew did. Norman Brinker gave us casual dining. We can thank him for the salad bar.
Put in a quarter, turn out the light.
And John Hufftaling dreamed of a way to ease the weary traveler. The Magic Fingers vibrating bed.
Magic Fingers makes you feel all right.
On the subject of magic fingers, watch this. That's Les Paul. He was a virtuoso. He changed the sound of music with his electric guitar. No less than Duke Ellington called Louis Bellson the world's greatest drummer. Can't beat that. And on keyboards, you couldn't beat Ferranti and Teicher. That's Art Ferranti on the left. Lou Teicher died last year. Now Art Ferranti is gone too. Television lost some towering talent this year. Larry Gelbart wrote one of the most successful programs in television history. He wrote hit movies too. I need to write to find out what I'm thinking, he once said. Rick Mizzy thought writing TV theme songs was a snap.
I went ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba. That's why I'm living in Bel Air.
The Addams Family.
Hi, Maud.
The snappy comeback was B. Arthur's stock in trade.
Mother, it's after 8 o'clock.
Carol, I'm proud of you. Only 27 years old and already you tell time.
As Maud, and later as Dorothy in The Golden Girls.
Here's Johnny.
Ed McMahon needs no introduction. As Johnny Carson's genial sidekick, we welcomed him into our homes every night for nearly 30 years.
Would you mind turning around for me, please?
Ricardo Montalban was one of the first Mexican-born stars in Hollywood.
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
But perhaps we remember him best from those weekly trips to Fantasy Island. And remember this? Soupy's sales figured some 20,000 pies were thrown on his TV shows in the 50s and 60s. Even Frank Sinatra thought it was hip to be hip.
Frank Sinatra knows my friend, I'm so hip.
Blossom Dearie was as hip as they come, a cabaret singer with a wispy sound. A critic once called Blossom Dearie chic, sleek, and squeaky clean. A voice in a million.
Just ask me if you're in doubt, 'cause I'm hip.
Watch those hips. That's Frankie Manning, the dance legend who was master of the Lindy Hop well into his 90s. Ellie Greenwich was
Leader of the pack.
Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news.
And millions did. Every day for more than 60 years, Paul Harvey was about as big as there was on radio. We pause to remember him today, too.
Right now, page 2.
Yeah. Don Hewitt was about as big a force as there was in television news.
Then forget 16 minutes and you don't get on this week. Yes,
It seemed words like legendary were created with him in mind.
couldn't be better.
What Don created here at CBS was an hour of television that transformed broadcast news.
It's a kind of a magazine for television.
The secret of his success?
It's 4 little words. Tell me a story.
Some very fine storytellers left us this year. John Updike, the great American novelist who captured the spirit of middle-class Americans with his profound prose.
My attempt has been really to, beyond making a record of contemporary life, which is what you inevitably do, is trying to make beautiful books that are models of how to use the language, models of honest feeling, models of care.
Horton Foote wrote beautiful stories for the stage and screen, gentle tales of life in small towns of the South. Marilyn French, her novel, The Women's Room, became a feminist classic. Dominic Dunn, he gave us the lowdown on high society. And Frank McCourt, he gave us Angela's Ashes, a moving memoir of his miserable childhood in Ireland that he called his epic of woe.
I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long ways from home.
For a time, Ireland had no greater musical ambassador than Liam Clancy. With his brothers Tom and Paddy and their friend Tommy Makem, all in their trademark sweaters, they brought Irish folk music to the whole world. Even a president's Irish eyes were smiling when the Clancy brothers and Tommy Makem performed.
You'll find the Irish here.
Liam Clancy was the last of the group, and now Liam Clancy is gone too.
Good evening, everyone. Here is the news.
He was, to put it plainly, the man we trusted most to tell it the way it was.
That's the way it is. Thursday,
Walter Cronkite was our national anchor during turbulent times.
The Supreme Court today legalized abortion.
A flurry of activity at the Jack Ruby trial
The
today.
indictment of President Richard Nixon.
Television news came of age on Walter's watch when we remember the momentous events of our day, the tragedies.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The triumphs.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Oh, boy.
We remember Walter Cronkite reporting. Thank you, old friend. You'll be a part of those memories always. And thanks to them all, and all we could not name, for the gifts they gave us,
Good luck, athletes.
the moments we'll cherish.
And that's the way it is.
We remember today that they died. We remember forever that they lived.